What's up, my friend? Abby here, and welcome back to Writer's Life Wednesdays, where we come together to help you make your story matter and make your author dreams come true. If you have spent any time in the writing world, you are probably familiar with the mantra, show, don't tell. This rule usually pertains to how we write emotions and feelings and how we can better help our reader engage with the story because we are showing them in action rather than telling them what's happening. For example, she was tired versus she yawned, her eyelids heavy. The difference here is obvious. In one, we are just outright telling you what the character is feeling, and in the other, we are allowing you to interpret the action of the character and decide on your own what she is feeling. It's a pretty easy rule to remember with simple character interactions like this, but when it comes to something a little bit more complex, like fatal flaws and internal conflict and deep desires and fears that your characters are holding on to, it becomes a little bit trickier to show and not tell. How much of your character's internal conflict are you supposed to reveal? Should they know what their fatal flaw is or keep it hidden? Do they know what they want? Do they know what they're afraid of? How are we supposed to show the reader all of this without making them feel like they're just reading a character profile? I get questions like this from you guys all the time, and I feel your pain because it is not easy. But there are some really simple tricks that you can apply to your writing, to any writing style, that will help you to instantly improve your prose and draw your reader into your character's story, make them feel what they're feeling without having to come out and tell them. And that's what we're going to explore in this video.
Why does your story matter? Good question. What if I told you that there's a science behind every great story? I don't just teach you how to write. I teach you how to change the world with your story and make your author dreams come true.
Before we get into this explanation of showing and not telling internal conflict, I want to quickly ask you to take a second to hit the subscribe button below this video. Not only does it help my content rise to the top, but it also makes sure you never miss a new video, special event, or live training from me as we dive deeper into writing and publishing and making your author dreams come true. So hit the subscribe button and let's get into this. The golden rule, I'm just gonna come right out and tell you the golden rule, okay? The golden rule of showing, not telling is this. Telling explains what we're looking at. Showing allows us to interpret what we're looking at and engage with the story on an emotional level. Now, exploring internal conflict with this show, don't tell rule can be tricky. We know that every conflicted character grapples with three key ingredients, right? A desire, a fear, and a misbelief or fatal flaw. Your character is aware of their desires. They know what they want. They know the goal that they are chasing after, the thing that's going to make them happy. They might even have some inkling of what their fears are, although articulating it in so many words might be difficult. But oftentimes they are unaware of their own misbeliefs and fatal flaws. They can't put them into words. They can't objectively observe themselves and see what is the root cause of what's wrong here. If they could, then we would lose that juicy, transformative journey that your character is gonna go on that's going to take them from a conflicted state to an enlightened state, right? If they're enlightened at the beginning of the book, then they can't go on a transformative journey that brings them to enlightenment. It leaves no room for growth, and then it leaves no profound message, no impact on your reader long after they close the book. This is why internal conflict can come across as forced or cheesy if a character is too aware of their own flaws. If they start sounding like their own therapist, like objectively pointing out things about themselves that psychologically trip them up, then chances are you're telling too much internal conflict when you should be showing it. Let's say, for example, you have created a deeply conflicted character named Pam, who wants to be a great writer, but she fears rejection and criticism. So she never put her work out there because she has a misbelief that she needs to be perfect and above criticism. And this fatal flaw is rooted in her past because she grew up with very strict parents who rewarded her for perfect behavior and punished her if she fell short. That's a strong start, but how would we go about showing Pam's internal conflict so that we don't just have her come right out and say, I want to be a great writer, but I'm afraid of putting myself out there because I'm afraid I'll be criticized, and I have this flaw that I feel like I'm not good enough because my parents were always super strict with me and made me feel like I fell short. Let's face it, nobody in real life has an objective, unbiased insight into their own flaws like this. That's why it's so important to ask yourself, how much does my character really understand about their internal struggles? Be careful how you reveal this conflict to your readers. You want to show them just enough for them to care about this character and grasp the deeper reason for why they are the way they are, but you don't want to give them so much that there's no room for mystery and intrigue and no reason to burn the midnight oil turning pages. Curiosity is what lights up your brain with that addictive, I need to stay up past my bedtime reading this book behavior. That's what you want in your reader. You want to kindle their curiosity. And so that comes with not revealing everything, not telling everything right out of the gate. Balancing this can be daunting, I know, but I believe that you have what it takes to pull it off. The key is to fully immerse yourself in your character's perspective, so that you can write their internal struggles from this personal, intimate point of view. Allow them to struggle and battle with their emotions and battle with their voices of doubt in their head, pursuing their desires, grappling with their fears, and ultimately changing as a result of their journey. Let's look at an example of showing versus telling in writing. I want you to see the difference here. So we're going to compare and contrast two versions side by side. One is good, one is bad, and I'll show you the reasons why we can dissect this together and take our writing to that next level. So the example I'm going to show you today is actually taken from my latest book, The Otherworld. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you an excerpt from this book that I have rewritten to be telling instead of showing my character's internal conflict. And then I'm going to read you the excerpt that shows her internal conflict rather than just coming out and telling you it. So this is the telling example from the prologue at the opening of this book where I introduce my protagonist, Orca's internal conflict. I've never been to the Otherworld, but I long to go with Papa and see what it's like. I've spent my whole life on this island and I feel like I'm missing out on a lot of things, but mostly relationships and connection, people. However, I'm afraid Papa will never let me go because he thinks I'm not strong enough for the Otherworld. He's always telling me that I'm too delicate and sweet and fragile to handle the harsh realities of the mainland. Really, I think he's just afraid of losing me like he lost Mama. This feels like an outline. Literally, this is how I would write an outline. I would change it to be third person if I was writing an outline, but this is how I write notes to myself because I need to explain to myself what the character is struggling with, but you don't want your book to read like an outline. You don't want it to read like a character profile, like a Wikipedia page of like, here it is, all the conflict just on the surface. If you come right out and explain things like this, it comes across as dry and flat and editorializing because you are explaining things to the reader that the character shouldn't even be fully aware of themselves. You aren't allowing the reader to interpret the story and interact with it and use their thinking brain, their intelligent, beautiful, curious brain to figure out what's going on here. You're just like telling them, here's what's going on here. And we can't engage with that. It doesn't stoke our curiosity. It doesn't draw us in to learn the fuller message. So now let's look at the actual excerpt from Orca's prologue in the beginning of this book, which does a better job of showing through dialogue and action. At times, I have glimpsed lights from the Otherworld too. Little pinpricks of light, as if some stars had fallen out of the night sky and landed in the water, twinkling for a moment on the horizon before the waves swallowed them up. What is it like out there? Will I ever know? When Papa spoke of the thunderstorm people in the Otherworld, he emphasized how much we don't belong there, how much I don't belong there. You're a very special, kind soul, Orca, he'd say, looking deep into my eyes from across the dinner table. People aren't kind in the Otherworld. None of them? Not many of them, Papa said. You're like a delicate and unique branch of coral. You belong far away from the violent crashes of the waves on the rocks. You see, corals can't survive in the tide. That's why they flourish in a reef on the ocean floor, out of harm's way. I understood what he was saying. I wasn't strong enough for the Otherworld. According to Papa, it would smash me and destroy me. Year after year, I helped Papa keep the light. Occasionally, boats and planes would cross paths with us, always miles out of reach, traveling in too many directions to determine where they came from or where they were going. I amused myself by making up stories about the people in those planes and boats, where they might be traveling to, and what kinds of lives they led. So obviously that excerpt was a lot longer than the first one, but what it does is it does a better job of showing you what Orca is feeling and allowing you to interpret it through the action, through the dialogue, instead of just coming right out and telling you. We have the misbelief reinforcement through the dialogue with her father. We can read into their conversation and see how protective he is. We can see Orca's conclusion and misbelief taking root. And then through action, we see her curiosity and longing for the Otherworld, watching the lights from the mainland at night, watching the boats and planes, making up stories about people she'll never meet. Bottom line, the power of a great story lies in its ability to make us interact with it and engage with it, not tell us what to think. So this is the super simple trick. All you have to do is just ask yourself this one question when you're in the middle of writing, or you're stuck in a scene, or you're like, how do I show this character's internal conflict? Ask yourself this question. Am I explaining, or am I allowing the reader to interpret? That's the difference between showing versus telling. This forces your prose to be better because it forces you to write more action. You're forced to make something happen that the reader can interpret, whether it's an action that your character is remembering doing, or something they're going to do, or something they're currently doing, or it's dialogue they're having with another character. But they're engaging with the story. They're engaging with life. And through that engagement, we get to interpret what they're feeling. We get to see what they are wrestling with and feel it as deeply as if it's something we're wrestling with. When is it okay to tell instead of show? When your character is voicing their beliefs and opinions and allowing their current mood to color their perspective. This is different than telling in that the character is the one who is really editorializing here, not the author. So in this case, you're not so much telling as you're writing in deep point of view. And actually, in that excerpt that we just looked at from the Otherworld, you may have noticed a moment when my point of view character editorializes at the end of her conversation with her father when she says, I understood what he was saying. I wasn't strong enough for the Otherworld. That is the conclusion that she comes to, and this is the basis of her misbelief, but that's actually not what her father thinks. So she's actually wrong about this, and your characters can be wrong about many things, but allow us to see how they draw these conclusions and what decisions they make because of these conclusions, because these are their beliefs. This is the foundation of who they are as a character, right? So if you catch yourself editorializing through your character's voice, where they are coming to a conclusion about something and they are telling the reader what they think, congratulations, you're in deep point of view. And that kind of telling is okay, because that's not me, the author, trying to explain it to you because you can't understand it. That is me allowing you to interpret what you think of the character's conclusions. This rule of show, don't tell is just one of the building blocks and the foundation of good writing. And if you've made it to this point in the video, I know that you are serious about improving your writing style and making your unique voice shine. That's why I'm super excited to invite you to my upcoming live training, Elevate Your Writing Style: How to Find Your Voice and Make Your Prose Shine. Now, I'm not going to teach writing prose like everyone else does. Be warned. Instead, I want to approach this from the foundational truth that every single creative writer has a unique voice, all their own. You shouldn't be trying to write as good as someone else, fill in the blank with your favorite author. You should be striving to let your own one-of-a-kind style shine through by leveraging a few powerful writing principles that apply to any writing style, any genre, any author. And we're going to explore those principles in depth in this live training, from showing, not telling, to writing with rhythm, crafting immersive descriptions that create atmosphere, writing in deep point of view, balancing characters' emotions with the action, writing physical descriptions that shine, and expanding your vocabulary in fun, creative ways that doesn't feel like you're doing schoolwork. This live training is going to be like an epic crash course masterclass in the fundamentals of strong writing. We're going to explore each of these elements in depth and uncover your unique voice by studying side-by-side examples, deciphering what works and what doesn't, and ultimately having fun playing with words. You may have a great story in you. You may have your amazing conflicted characters and the backstory and the world building, and you may have all these incredible elements to a story, but you feel like you just need to bring your writing style to that next level to make this story truly shine. And that's what this live training is about. So if you're excited to dive into this with me, click the link below to save your spot at the live training. Space is limited and I want you to be there. It's happening Sunday, July 7th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you can't make it to the live stream, don't worry, you will still have access to watch the replay as many times as you want. And when you join this live training, you also get access to my entire archive of previous live trainings, which is over 24 hours of in-depth teaching on all topics from writing to editing to creating characters to publishing and marketing your book. So much value in the vault, and I think you'll love it there. So check it out and save your spot at the live training this weekend. Okay, let's recap everything that we learned in today's video. Telling explains what we're looking at. Showing allows us to interpret what we're looking at and engage with the story on an emotional level. Don't tell us what to think about something, show us how the point of view character sees it and what they feel about it. How much does your protagonist really understand about their internal struggles? Be careful about how you reveal this conflict to your readers. You want to show just enough to let them grasp what the character is wrestling with, but you don't want to lay it all out so clearly that there's no mystery or intrigue. When in doubt, ask yourself, am I explaining or am I allowing the reader to interpret? This is the difference between showing versus telling. Instead of relying on exposition, you're forced to make something happen that the reader can interpret, whether it's an action the character takes or an emotion they wrestle with. When is it okay to tell instead of show? When your character is voicing their opinion about something or letting their current mood and beliefs color their perspectives. Okay, boom, that's it. I hope this video has inspired you. I hope it has cleared up some of the confusion of how to show and not tell your character's internal conflict. And I hope, above all, it has inspired you to dive into your story today and start playing with words. Comment below and tell me, what is your favorite way to show and not tell what your character is struggling with? I would love to hear all your brilliant writing methods below, so drop them in the comments. Also, smash that like button if you liked this video, and be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because I post writing and publishing videos every single Wednesday, and I would love to have you here in the community. Until next week, my friend, rock on.